Ever since its introduction in 1986, Dragon Ball has developed into a huge fanbase with many different series like GT, Super, and the nonsensical Dragon Ball Heroes. This also gave birth to a multitude of video games, clearly not milking it, guidebooks, and other media which has fleshed out just how huge and complex the Dragon Ball multiverse really is. Although a pretty good portion of you might already have a good idea about the world of Dragon Ball, I'm telling you, after going over a lot of this stuff, I realized that a guide would be worth making to show that the Dragon Ball universe isn't as simplistic or as small as people have made it out to be. So how large is Universe 7? Is it bigger than my love for Halo Reach? Does it really only have 4 galaxies, or is it actually a bubble that stretches out beyond infinity? How many realms are there in the multiverse and who oversees them? And most importantly, what can the video games and guidebooks reveal to us about the cosmology and the pecking order that is not revealed to us in the main series? Well, I decided to read over a bunch of nerd shit, so you don't have to give you the answers. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out Dragon Ball's Guide to the Multiverse. Our story begins with the Dragon Ball cosmos, which we don't really know as to who or what created it, but my 3 candidates are Base God Little B, Sarama the Dragon God, or the Omni King, the supreme ruler of the multiverse. But if you want to get super technical, Toribot, a representation of Akira Toriyama, who is the author of Dragon Ball, is the creator of the multiverse. Each timeline is technically a small multiverse, a space-time that contains 12 universes and up to 18 in alternate timelines where Zeno didn't blow it up. The main events of Dragon Ball take place in Universe 7, which forms a set and shares many similarities with its sibling, Universe 6. Each of the 12 to 18 universes have their own pair and share a neutral space as well. And although these universes have their own differences, they do all abide to the same pecking order and the same structure, which I'll get into in a second. Son Goku's progression to becoming one of the most powerful martial artists to ever live on Earth happens in one of the most exotic and diverse planets in the North Galactic Quadrant at the far edge of Universe 7. Now, one of the most common misconceptions within the Dragon Ball fandom is that the universe only has 4 galaxies and is very small. Nah. This is pretty much not the case, as the Daizenshu guidebooks state that the living universe is endless and infinite. And this infinite universe has countless, if not infinite, galaxies composed of innumerable nebulas or solar systems, which are themselves composed of countless planets, stars, and other celestial bodies. Yeah, the depiction of the macrocosm does imply that it does have an edge and perhaps a finite distance, but it is impossible to truly visualize an infinite realm. The structure that we're given is simply to give the audience a relative idea about what the macrocosm looks like. And even if the living universe is not infinite, it is certainly much, much larger than a typical universe, because there's a lot of info that says, hey, there are countless galaxies and endless space within it. And as showcased with Frieza, one of Goku's biggest enemies, a planet can also have its own hell dimension of unspecified size, but it does have like numerous levels to it with different biomes. It is unknown if only planets with life have hell on it, or if every planet in general does. But it's basically possible that there are countless hell planets in the universe as well. Earth and planets similar to it in other universes have a kami, a guardian whose job is to oversee the mortal populations and protect them from evil threats. A kami has an assistant and can pass on their knowledge onto an apprentice. And in the case of Universe 7, their kami, who originated from planet Namek, is the home of the Namekians and where the original Dragon Ball set exists. Porunga the Namekian dragon grants 3 wishes and is far larger than Shenron, which is Earth's iconic dragon, who originally used to only grant 1 wish, but then his powers got upgraded by Dende. Dende became the next kami on Universe 7 after Piccolo became one with the original kami to pull up on the androids. Now the reason I'm talking about kami is because his lookout is actually quite interesting, as it contains numerous training rooms which aided Goku in the Z Fighters numerous times. In the later parts of Dragon Ball, Goku eventually trains with Mr. Popo and later encounters the Time Room in Kami's palace. The Time Room contains past, present, and future events, and all of time is essentially created in that room. We don't really know how big this realm is, but it is full of countless clocks which would pertain to specific points in time. Goku decides to use this room to travel to the past and meet a young Roshi, and even gets to spar against Master Mutaito, who teaches him about basic key concepts. Admittedly, we don't get to see much of this room, but it is implied that it does not affect the main flow of time or violate time-traveling laws. Okay, let's jump into Dragon Ball Z now. As the planet-destroying Saiyans, Vegeta and Nappa travel to Earth, Popo and Kami decide to train Yamcha, Tien, and the other Z fighters in the Pendulum Room. This is another room in Kami's lookout in which past, present, and future all intersect. Now the weird thing about this realm is that it doesn't seem to be a full-fledged physical realm, as it can be entered by one focusing their mind. Yamcha and the others enter this realm and then get owned by manifestations of Saiyan warriors and die. But just like if you die in Canada, you don't seem to die in real life, as you can just continuously respawn. So I guess you can think of it like a virtual reality realm that you can enter through your mind. Kami's temple also has a room called the Divine Realm, a space of unspecified dimensions that has the spirits and graves of past Kamis. And of course, how could I forget the iconic, plot-saving, ass-pulling, clutch MVP room that is the Room of Spirit and Time, also known as a hyperbolic time chamber. This realm clearly has a different time-space, as 1 year within it equals 1 day in the outside world. It looks pretty empty and has a harsh environment, but it definitely saved the asses of the heroes more than one time. Prior to the Cell games, Goku and Gohan train in here to get massive gains in attempts to master Super Saiyan. And during the Tournament of Power, Vegeta even trained in here and chatted out so hard that he busted a dimension itself. Now, we've never seen the Guardian Gods from the other universes, but it's fair to assume that they have the same role in a similar temple or area of operations, which would also have the same realms. Although Akami is technically a Guardian God, they are very low ranking in comparison to the other beings in the multiverse. Beyond the reaches of the living universe is the Afterlife, also known as the Otherworld, which is ridiculously huge and sealed off completely from the living universe. The only way to actually reach this realm is to either die or through impressive levels of teleportation. The Afterlife is split into 3 different areas. For one, the Enma realm contains the ridiculously long Snake Way and King Enma's palace. King Enma is higher ranking than Kami's and basically manages the entry of souls and decides to send them to heaven or hell, depending on the nature that they showed in life. The vast majority of souls who enter this realm are faceless and without bodies. But luckily, with enough clout, combat experience, and good deeds, one is able to keep their body and train with the gods in this realm. Above King Enma are the Kais, which exist in the Kaio realm. The universe is observed by 4 of them, a north, east, west, and south Kai, one for each galactic quadrant, which each of them is composed of countless galaxies. So it seems like a pretty hefty job, not gonna lie. Each of these Kais have their own personal planet and are themselves supervised by the Grand Kai, an even higher being, who was revealed to the audience in the filler arc of Dragon Ball Z, where Goku gets to fight off against Pikkon. The Grand Kai supervises the entire universe and was formerly at the top of the cosmological food chain, until Super, obviously. He has his own planet called the Grand Kai's Planet, which is pretty damn huge, as it is a portion of the size of Heaven, which is as wide as the living universe as stated in the anime and the guides. So basically, the Grand Kai's planet is easily multi-galactic in size, and it makes sense too, as one of the rooms within his mansion holds a vast anomalous realm with many stars and planets. And this is actually the same place where the Otherworld tournament was being held. But as you can see, the Kaio realm is infinitely much larger than the already infinite mortal universe. Below the Enma realm is Hell, where pretty twisted people go, so you can expect, mains here, Twitch simps, and people who use NoobTube one-man army in Modern Warfare 2. Me. From the Enma realm, one can enter Hell from above, but it is virtually impossible to escape Hell from below. The size of Hell is never given, but it should be comparable in size to the Enma realm, which on its own is already far larger than the infinite mortal universe. So logically it would be reasonably infinite as well, obviously on a higher scale. Some of you might be asking though, Chuck, how can something be higher than infinity? As I've said countless times, we cannot expect to estimate with certainty how some shit just seems to work better in other universes. Ki, chakra, the force, black hole weaponry, whatever it might be, right? But we can at least try to estimate or make some sense of how this realm is much larger and contains something larger than infinity by using numbers. Okay, so let's think of the mortal universe, which is infinite, as being represented by an Aleph number, which is a way to list a set of numbers at a transfinite, if not infinite amount. So for example, one set can have all odd numbers and another set can have all even numbers. Although both of these sets are infinite, they have different values, and these sets can be included in even larger, quote-unquote more infinite sets. The Afterlife in this example would technically be like an Aleph set that includes all real numbers, which would already include the already transfinite sets of odd and even numbers. So if the living universe is a possibly infinite three-dimensional realm and heaven is as wide as it and is contained within an even larger realm, it means that the Afterlife is possibly a baseline fourth-dimensional realm. Dragon Ball Super did eventually retcon Hell's depiction in the series, but the nature of the realm is still intact. And to be honest, the cosmology hasn't been the most consistent, but Toriyama does acknowledge this in the Daizenshu, that there were basically inconsistencies between his original depiction and the designs of other artists. The good thing is though, that the macrocosm's general structure is still the same as it is shown in the manga adaptation of Dragon Ball Super. Although it's not confirmed if the Afterlife has a different time space, it is stated by Goku that time flows differently there in comparison to the mortal world, which is one of the main reasons as to why Super Saiyan 3 is far more effective there. The Supreme Kai, one of the creator gods who I'll touch up on later, refers to the living universe as a temporal world. So a way to interpret this is to think of the Afterlife as Asgard from Marvel Comics or the God Sphere from DC. Now hold up, I'm not trying to say that the Afterlife exists in the same level of existence or anything like that as these two realms, but these two are said to be beyond time and space, or at least displayed on a level unrecognizable to mortals. So I think it's possible that time within the Afterlife flows in a narratively similar way, going by statements. And this is further backed up by the Kais referring to the mortal universe as the mortal realm. Then we get to the Kaioshin realm, the home of the Kaioshin, which has numerous stars and orbits around the macrocosm like a moon. It is 1/10 the size of the macrocosm, which as we know contains several infinite realms within it, so that would also make the Kaioshin realm infinite by extension. This realm is enclosed and separate from the rest of the macrocosm as it is impossible to enter it through normal means like flight. But one of the ways that it can be entered is through teleportation, as showcased by Goku, the Supreme Kai, and Kid Buu. The Kaioshin rank higher than the Kais and even the Grand Kai, as their job is to look over both the Afterlife and mortal world. Like with the Kais, there is, or in the case of Universe 7, there were 4 Kaioshin that would each oversee and become involved with their respective galaxy quadrant. As creator gods, their job is to create new planets and stars and to make observations on the progress of mortals, to see if they will evolve into a thriving society. However, if said mortals are non-efficient or are of no consequence to the universe's well-being, a god of destruction can decide to destroy it based on the Kaioshin's advice. Speaking of the gods of destruction, each universe has one and their job is pretty simple, to blow shit up and manage a balance between life and destruction in the universe. Some gods and their respective Kaioshin take their jobs very seriously, which allow them to obtain high mortal levels in their universe. Not only do the gods of destruction and Kaioshin have to work in tandem, but they also have to protect each other because if one dies, so does the other. Goku Black, the Kaioshin apprentice from Universe 10, abused this knowledge, which allowed him to kill off all of the gods in Trunks' timeline. The Kaioshin can have an assistant, and if they are up for it, they can also take on an apprentice to pass on their knowledge and ensure that there is a Kaioshin for the next generation. Beerus is the purple cat bitch Hakaishin from Universe 7 who sealed the Elder Kai in the Z-Sword and admittedly could have helped save the universe from Moro and Majin Buu, but he just really likes napping. Each god of destruction has been around likely for millions of years and are not only trained but also maintained by an angel assistant. Each universe clearly also has their own angel and god of destruction pair, and like with the Supreme Kai's relationship with Beerus, if a god of destruction dies, their corresponding angel becomes irresponsive. Logically, the angels rank even higher than both the Hakaishin and Kaioshin respectively. They're pretty strange beings because they are deathless, as the only way they can actually die is to erase them entirely. They're able to casually one-shot gods of destruction and are so OP that they cannot actively fight and take action in mortal affairs, which we know as a result of Whis' conversation with Beerus in the Dragon Ball Super manga. Before we move into the very tippy top of the food chain, it is important to mention that there is another dragon named Sarama who stands above many of the other gods in the series. He is a dragon god and the creator of the Super Dragon Balls, which are each the size of planets and can grant wishes that would normally be impossible for the lower Dragon Ball sets to grant. Not to mention that he is mad huge and encompasses a multitude of galaxies.
That's quite big. Impressive.
Speaking of the Super Dragon Balls, there is a set of 7 stretched across Universe 6 and Universe 7, and logically there will be a Super Dragon Ball set in every timeline. Admittedly, we haven't really seen much of Sarama, and as such we don't really know as to where he ranks in comparison to the other deities, but he's at least a top contender. Above all of the angels in the Kaioshin is El Grande Padre, the Grand Priest, who is the father to all of the angels and pretty much Zeno's right-hand man and counsel. He is so powerful that Whis and quite possibly the other angels aren't able to step up to him, and within the manga he was able to easily stop serious punches from Beerus and Yellow Jerry with his fingers. And then at the top of it all, where we began, is the Omni King Zeno, who is basically the supreme ruler of the multiverse and can fuck your shit up with a gesture. He's so Chad that the Grand Priest and the angels refer to him as his omnipotence, and very few things can actually threaten him. Although Zeno might seem really powerful, he is still bound by time, because there is a Zeno for every timeline. A Zeno within each corresponding timeline would basically appoint gods to do their task and pretty much just chill in his massive realm. Unfortunately, we don't know how big or where Zeno's realm is located, but we do know that it contains a large cosmos, numerous galaxies, and his house seems to be on top of some blue jellyfish thingy. But one of the most interesting things about this realm is that it's possible that it exists on a higher level of existence, since the universes or macrocosms are presented as being extremely small in comparison. The Omni King Zeno might seem very chill and innocent, but if the gods don't do their jobs correctly or if they upset him, he will flip the hell out and nuke macrocosms like nothing. He's also been used as a plot device to nuke Trunks' timeline in attempts to kill Zamasu, which means that Zeno destroyed at least 12 macrocosms like nothing. For his entertainment, the Tournament of Power was held in a realm known as the World of Void, which is eternal and is implied by Beerus to not having space or time. Regardless if it has space-time or not, it is eternal, which means that there is no end to it, and logically each timeline would also have its own World of Void as well. So as you fellers can see, the macrocosm is pretty damn huge, and due to its nature, it's pretty much unquantifiably infinite. But let's do an estimate to see just how big the whole macrocosm could be, and have a little bit of power scaling with it, cause why the hell not? In Dragon Ball Super, during the Battle of Gods arc, Goku and Beerus' battle was so intense that from simply their fists clashing, the entire living universe in conjunction with the entire macrocosm would have been destroyed and turned into a void. So not only would Beerus and Goku have wiped out the Afterlife and the living universe, but also Hell, the Kaioshin realm, and the Demon realm, as we'll touch up on later. But it's pretty clear as day that even the early Dragon Ball Super characters can already wipe out more than just one universe. The main reason as to why this feat happened is because Goku was still getting used to the Super Saiyan God state, and ergo, he was not able to properly control his ki and body until much later in the fight. But how many universes would these two be destroying? Well, the diameter of the observable universe is approximately 93 billion light years across, meaning that it have a radius of about 46.5 billion light years, and would therefore have a volume of about 4 × 10 to the 80 cubic meters. Meanwhile, our unobservable universe is likely beyond trillions of light years across and has a volume that can be estimated to being over 15 million times larger than our observable universe. So it's a fair bet that the Dragon Ball living universe at least has a volume that is billions if not trillions of times larger than our observable universe. And even then, it's a pretty gross lowball, since it likely has an infinite volume going by the guidebooks. And you know what's even more crazy? Well, base Goku prior to his battle with the resurrected Frieza had already surpassed those levels of power that he showcased in that feat. So yeah, it's very likely that in Goku's battle with Beerus, they are essentially going to wipe out at least thousands, and dare I say it, millions of observable universes. And this is not wank, okay? Trust me. Heaven is already infinite since it is as wide as the living universe, and there's a lot of space throughout the Kaio and Enma realms that could fit many heavens within it. By using a relative estimate using the observable universe's diameter as heaven's width, and by estimating the volume of the macrocosm's top half, we can determine that the Afterlife contains more than enough space to hold at least 172 heavens. So that's pretty crazy. Calc in the description if you want to see that. Finally, at the lowermost portion of the macrocosm is the Demon Realm, which is where Dabura, the former Demon King, used to rule before he got, bukake'd by Boo. The Demon Realm is very cryptic and chaotic because the Kaioshin nor the Kais are able to observe what even happens there. And it seems to run like on different physics or rules entirely since magic has more prevalence than science. Its definite size is not clear since, Toriyama forgets shit, but the Daizenshu does state that the Demon Realm is on the reverse side of the living universe and is divided in very much the same way. However, in a 2014 interview with Toriyama, he states that the Demon Realm is a very small hideout, so I don't know what the hell to go with. But if we go with the original description, that means that the macrocosm contains yet another huge, if not infinite realm, since it is the same size as the mortal universe. The Demon Realm, for the most part, has been like a neglected child in the main series because it is mostly ignored. But video games like Dragon Ball Heroes and Dragon Ball Xenoverse not only explore this realm, but its lore and inhabitants. But it also touched up on the complex nature that is time. Timelines are a very important part in Dragon Ball, but they can get really confusing quickly. According to Future Trunks, an alternate timeline can sprout over the smallest things. And due to his use of the time machine, he created many different timelines, which were against natural order. This is pretty depressing, but Trunks' timeline is technically the original timeline, where Goku dies and everyone else gets pretty much killed by the androids. But once he went back in time to give Goku his heart medication, it created yet another timeline, which is the one that we're all acquainted with. Then a third timeline was created where Cell killed and took Trunks' time machine, dipped to the past in order to find the androids and absorb them to become perfect, which we see in the main series. The guidebooks reveal that a fourth timeline came about where Cell hosted the Cell games, but Trunks wasn't even there because he used the blueprints from the past to shut down the androids. According to Gowasu, these unnatural changes in time can create time rings, so that's 4 time rings right there. Then, Dragon Ball Super introduced 2 more time rings, one as a result of time travel from another universe and the other from Beerus banning Zamasu from being alive. Time rings can represent altered timelines through a natural means, but this doesn't mean that the time rings represent all of the available timelines, as the vast majority occur naturally, which are further expanded on in the video games. Here's where it gets cray-cray. So according to Dragon Ball Xenoverse, history is infinitely branched and is certainly not finite. All possibilities are possible and exist. So the opponents that Goku and friends fight in the movies, Dragon Ball GT, and the video games all exist in the larger scale Dragon Ball Multiverse alongside Dragon Ball Super. This is further proven by Akira Toriyama referring to the movies and GT as being side stories or as occurring in alternate dimensions. The multiverse just gets even bigger when you realize that Dragon Ball GT includes other realms such as a Sugoroku space, which is where Goku had to play some strange board game. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and Shin Budokai 2 also have statements that there are endless or countless possibilities. And many of these video game scenarios are present in Dragon Ball Heroes, which is itself connected to Dragon Ball Xenoverse. If there are infinite possibilities which themselves can spawn their own timelines, would mean that there are infinite timelines. These timelines or small multiverse sets contain 12 to 18 macrocosms, which themselves can spawn their own infinite timelines and possibilities. So basically, you're looking at 12 to 18 sets of infinite timelines with infinite possibilities. And I'm not gonna lie, this part of the research confused me a lot, but I'll try to explain it as straightforward as possible. In Dragon Ball Xenoverse, we are introduced to another Kaioshin, Chronoa, who becomes the Supreme Kai of Time, and basically her job is to manage the flow of time throughout the multiverse. Her crib is called the Time Nest, which is basically where she constantly fixes and analyzes time scrolls, which are timelines. Chronoa has a pretty pimp bird called Toki Toki, who is actually very important to the stability of existence, as he is responsible for maintaining all dimensions and all of time. And the eggs that it hatches not only hold massive amounts of power, but they can also sprout new timelines. To get stranger still, it seems that Toki Toki is time itself, since affecting Toki Toki can directly affect time. The aforementioned Time Nest is located alongside Kanton City, which is where time patrollers can train, learn new skills, and of course, fix altered time scrolls and prevent history from being changed by Towa and Mira. These two beings exist outside the normal flow of time and space who originate from the Demon Realm, which curiously enough is stated by Chronoa to have a separate time-space, or at least it's not part of the normal flow of time. I'd suggest playing the Xenoverse games to learn more about these characters, but Towa and Mira's primary goal was to revive the Demon Realm by collecting energy from various points in time. And along the way, they would try to drastically change the main history by having villains receive power-ups and make it pretty much impossible for the heroes to win. So for example, there were going to be timelines where Raditz sticked on Goku and Piccolo, where Cell slapped Gohan, and Boo decimated Goku. In the Xenoverse and Heroes games, you assume the role of a creative character to help the heroes fight against these threats and restore stability to these timelines. The Time Patrollers don't actively change history, but they prevent the change of history itself and can access multiple different sets of time, which are as follows. The official history, also referred to as the book from beginning to end, is the main history which contains the aforementioned infinite timelines with 12 to 18 universes with their own respective infinite branching events. This set of history is arguably the most important one, as it is contained within a time vault. If said time vault is destroyed, then everything in the multiverse would be GG. Then there is another separate time space known as the Crack of Time, which is connected to timelines from the main history, but whatever happens within these timelines does not affect the normal time stream. So if the Crack of Time is connected to infinite timelines, it would mean that it also be infinite. This time rift contains crystals, which are a different presentation to the usual time scrolls and time rings. They're connected to events in the past and the future and are made up of different points in time, which could imply that they are even larger timelines. Assuming that time is the fourth dimension, we can try to estimate on what dimensional scale this realm exists on. And yeah, I'm aware that there are theories and arguments that indicate that the fourth dimension isn't time at all, but I'll simply use it as a model for this video. If each crystal is the quote-unquote physical representation of a timeline, which there are infinite amounts of, then the Crack of Time would logically have to be an infinite fourth dimensional structure to hold an infinite amount of timelines, and would logically have to keep on infinitely expanding as well. Within Xenoverse, there are parallel quests, alternate timelines that serve as side missions to kick some ass, get skills, and some money. Just like with the Crack of Time, anything that happens within these timelines does not affect the main story. And lore-wise, there would also have to be infinite parallel quests. So far, there are 3 infinite sets of history, but why not add another one? Tokipedia was an additional story DLC which has even more branching events than before and has the player face off against Fu's trolling schemes and exploration of the infinite timelines. You might have seen Fu in Dragonball Heroes, but he is Mira in Toa's child who is very intelligent and powerful. He's basically like Goku if he was a scientist, as he is fascinated with exploring the multiverse and getting stronger from it as well. But anyways, the events of Tokipedia are affected depending on who the player chooses as their mentor and the routes that they take, which already makes this infinitely branching side story even more complicated because there's so many mentors to choose from, like Goku, Frieza, Broly, and even Whis. So as you guys can probably already tell, there are 4 infinitely branching and expanding sets of history with their own timelines and universes. But now, what is the crazier part about this? Basically, the time nest is located in Universe 7, which would mean that if there are infinite Universe 7s, there could be additional time nests and possibly an infinite number of them, which would each have their own infinite histories and would mean in this scenario that there would also be, more Tokipedia time rifts, sets of parallel quests, and cracks of time. If this is the case, it'd mean that there are possibly infinite, if not at the very least, numerous variations of this infinite multiverse made up of several infinite sets of time. Unless we assume that the time nest exists simultaneously in the same spot across all eras of time, but there's nothing that implies that. But to make matters even more complicated, there is the real world, basically our world where the Dragon Ball Heroes multiverse is a game, obviously. But the characters from within these games can transcend dimensions, escape to the real world, and threaten to wipe it out entirely. But that is a video for another day. So, there you guys go. The Dragon Ball multiverse definitely has a complex and more bizarre cosmology in comparison to other fictional universes, but I think that is one of the main things that makes it interesting. Anyways, I hope that you found this guide useful, learn a lot of stuff, and thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to stay safe, and I'll catch you thoughties next time. Peace out.